John, how can you always have the right TV for the right application without carrying hundreds of valves on your truck?
You can carry the hundreds of valves on a trailer behind your truck.
That's too funny. That would work, but how are you going to do that? Maybe there's an easier way.
You can use Sporland's interchangeable cartridge style Type Q and Type BQ TEVs. Type Q is a conventional design and Type BQ is a balanced port TEV.
Well, come on. I need easy. How easy is it?
Easy as 1, 2, 3.
And it serves thousands of unique applications. So what's the process? How do I put this together?
First, you select the thermostatic element assembly. Then you select the body that you need. Then you select the right size cartridge for the application to get the proper capacity TEV for your application. And then I guess it should also be said you want to actually assemble those into a single valve.
That'd probably be a good idea.
Indeed.
These easy to select and assemble valves mean you're always carrying the right valve for the right job then. If folks want to learn more, what do they do?
You can go to sporland.com and find more information on the Type Q and BQ thermostatic expansion valves.
I guess that's Jim and John for Sporland signing off.
We've all been there, in the middle of a job, everything going smoothly, until boom, you're missing a part. United Refrigeration is your one-stop shop for all your refrigeration needs. Use your computer or smartphone to go to www.uri.com at any time of the day or night to check stock on your favorite brands, such as Copeland, Sporland, Carlisle Compressors, Danfoss, Emerson CPC boards and sensors, Carrel, Hussmann Parts, and K2Therm. United Refrigeration Inc. is home to these brands and many more. Looking for information on refrigerant conversions or refrigerant banking? Quick access links on the homepage can get you to the information you need. All approved accounts are able to see live to-the-minute inventory and pricing. Product not in stock at your local branch? No problem. Use the Nearby Stock feature to find a local branch that does have what you need. Are you looking for a branch address, phone number, or after-hours number? That's all available as well. Just click on the branch locator and search for your local branch. Have a model number and looking for a replacement part? www.uri.com/ARP has a vast list of quick pick replacement parts. Just search for the model number of the equipment you're working on and click the Replacement Parts tab. If you don't have an account, click the Register button and we'll have you online in no time. With more than 400 locations in North America, each United Refrigeration branch is fully stocked for immediate pickup. Our branch employees have in-depth technical knowledge, so we can help you get what you need when you need it. Visit your local store or www.uri.com/ARP today. United Refrigeration Inc. has all your solutions down cold.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Advanced Refrigeration Tech Talks. So today we're going to be going over three-way valves and modulating three-way valve troubleshooting and applications. You want to take it off the top, Brett?
Yeah, sure. So three-way valves, there's a bunch of them that are used for different applications. You have your heat reclaim valves, which they're going to act one way when they're energized, and you're going to have your split condenser valve, which is going to operate a certain way. You also have some new electronic valves that they're starting to use a lot. I've seen these being used for de-superheaters a lot of times on cascade racks because they don't want to deliver hot gas to the plate heat exchanger. They basically reduce the amount of heat, superheat coming off the discharge line before it actually goes into the heat exchanger, so you don't end up separating or damaging the plates. What other three-way valves do we use? I think. Well, we're gonna talk about a regular standard HVAC three-way valve, like a heat pump.
And we could. I mean, it's technically a four-way valve.
Oh yeah, you're right. All right, never mind that one.
So most of the three-way valves you guys are going to see are pilot-driven valves. So a pilot-driven valve is using high-pressure gas from a discharge or liquid, and it is shifting that valve, a piston in that valve, one way or another way by allowing gas to go into a chamber and push a piston down. Now, the way this whole thing works is so you have a solenoid coil on here, and we're going to be talking specifically about the Sporlan valves. You have a solenoid coil on there. When that is closed, when that valve port is closed, it's no longer venting to the suction, and it causes the valve to build gas pressure on top, and it causes it to shift one way. When you're venting that chamber out into the suction, it causes the valve plunger to shift the other way. So the way this whole thing works is it works like a hydraulic cylinder almost. So when you apply pressure one way, it closes the plunger and pushes the piston down. When you vent that pressure out of the cylinder, it's going to allow it to go to the suction header or suction, and it's going to allow that gas that built up in that chamber to relieve itself into the suction header, and it's going to allow that piston to come up, and it's going to shift it the other way. Now, when you're looking at three-way valves, like Brett said, the two main valves you're going to see is a split condenser valve and a heat reclaim valve. Now, the two major differences in these valves is one works either or, meaning it's either going out of one side of the three-way valve or the other side of the three-way valve. That would be a heat reclaim valve. So it's either going to be going to the heat reclaim side or to the condenser side or to the outlet of that valve, the normally open outlet. So a split condenser valve is either one or the other, meaning like it's it's either one or both, meaning when it's shifted and it's vented to the suction, it's venting out the pilot assembly, it's going to allow that valve to be 100% open. Now, when it's closed and it's not allowing the suction gas to vent off the chamber and it's pushing pressure on there, what happens is it's going to shift that valve the other way, and it's going to allow the split side of the condenser to be blocked off and only allow gas to flow through one side. Now, these valves they're fairly simple. I mean, there's not too many pieces to them. You have a pilot assembly, which is going to be directing your hot gas into the chamber and then bleeding off the suction gas. And then you have a plunger assembly. So that plunger is in a tube, and basically that hot gas gets pushed down in the tube, pushes the plunger down, it blocks the hole. And when it shifts the other way, it's going to relieve the pressure and allow the plunger to shift back the other way. So there's not much to fail on these valves. You have some seals inside the plunger. You could get copper debris inside there, debris in it. Most of your failures are going to be strainers, or they're going to be leaks, or they're going to be solenoid failures, is what I see. What about you, Brett?
Same. And be mindful. I mean, sometimes you can have some of these valves that work opposite. They will have the normally open solenoid on there as well. So just be mindful of, yeah, we're discussing how the operation of this thing goes, but, be mindful, putting a different solenoid on there could make that valve work in different ways. The other valves that we did actually forget, Kev, is the three-way oil valve. A lot of times you'll see them on the Carlisle 5Hs. I mean, I know a lot of them have now converted to the style where it actually has an unloading mechanical solenoid stem, right? Like they'll have 3 or 4 of them right on the front of the compressor, depending on how many cylinders that you have. So that's one valve that we forgot. The other valve that I was thinking about is the electronic load shedding valve that they use for, fucking store is that? It's a gas station. I think Quick Trip. They utilize a three-way valve in case the suction is maintained on the medium temp. They can basically, if there's barely any compressors running, they'll shift the load over to the low temp and just use it like that.
Yeah, I mean, it'd still be a standard three-way valve or like a stepper, but it would be it would be a different application. But yeah, along the same lines. Do you remember the Jake Evans valves? You ever
I don't
see any of
even
those?
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Those black coffee can looking massive three-way valves
Yes. Yes.
where the end plates used to blow off.
Yes.
So yeah, there's those too. Like those have a crazy looking spider pilot assembly on them, all kinds of little cap tubes coming off of it. Yeah, I haven't seen one of those in a while. So I did that store retrofit I just did. There was one there. Those things are a nightmare. We had a store with like they had them for hot gas solenoids. The end plates would blow off of them. It would shear the screws off, and it would blow the piston assembly and the whole steel plate off the end of it and fling it halfway across the store.
Well, someone's not gonna have a fun time with that.
No, and obviously then the charge would go bye-bye. That always happens really quick on its own, but like when you're trying to get rid of it, it usually always takes forever. It's funny how that works, right?
It does. It does.
So like those Jake Evans valves, same thing. Like it's a normally it depends on what it is, whether it's a split condenser or whether it's a heat reclaim valve. It's same thing. It's going to be energized one way or energized the other way. You just got to really pay attention to the nomenclature on it. The Sporlan valves are easy. Some of the Sporlan valves, the split condensers and the heat reclaim valves will have a B port in there. Any Sporlan three-way valve you see with a B port means it has a pump out equipped with it. So meaning it's pumping out that shut off side through the suction. So meaning that pilot assembly where it vents out is also pumping out that side. Now be mindful when you like use one of these B ports and you're using it in a split condenser application, it takes a while to pump out. It's not a huge orifice that it's going through to pump out. So give it some time. But a
Uh,
B port does pump out. Go ahead.
is that the one that usually typically pulls off the discharge side, so it's just pulling the vapor out?
Correct. So that usually takes forever.
Yeah. So in that recommendation, I would say always put in a pump out solenoid in that application because, like Kev said, man, it's just gonna take forever to pull that if it's just nothing but vapor. And if you were to do it, you never just hook it right up to the top. You want that quarter-inch line or 3/8 line fairly close to the bottom of the pipe that you're pulling off, so you're not having to wait days for like a big ass heat reclaim coil. We had one that dude, I think the discharge line was like 4-in-1 or something like that. And if that heat reclaim ever shut off, it would take days for that fucking thing to pump out because when the
If the
manufacturer,
receiver can even hold it.
what's that?
If the receiver could even hold it.
Oh no, it would. But the problem is that the wherever the manufacturer decided to install it, they put it right on the top of this pipe, so it was just straight up pulling vapor all of the time. So it just take absolutely just forever.
So the steppers, we'll go over this real quick, guys. The Sporlan stepper, like three-way valves, are no different for the most part than troubleshooting a CDS valve. So you're gonna you have a 4-wire bipolar motor, and basically you have two sets of windings in there. You have an open winding and a closed winding. So you're going to have the ohm chart in there. So you're going to have a preset thing in there from Sporlan. You have to look up the manual. So, red and green will have a certain ohm value. White and black will have a certain ohm value with a tolerance of what it should be.
I think it's 95 because those have the steps. I'm sorry.
63
The,
or
yeah,
something.
the valves that have 6386 steps. That's what the ohmage is, and that's what those big MTAs do.
Yeah, so you just want to pay attention to that. It's like plus or minus 10%. Yeah, it's on the ohm. So if it's way off, obviously there's something wrong with the winding. Now, tool for that, you need an SMA 12 to test that. You need to be able to force it open, force it closed. Most of the time, I see them things if they fail, it's either they fail one way, they either fail open or closed, and then it's just like a CDS valve. It ends up failing. It loses its place. It doesn't know where it is, loses its place, and generally it's because it's dragging. And half the time I see them fail, they're either overdriven, meaning it's driving too much and it's hunting, or it's programmed wrong. Wrong steps, wrong step rate, and then the valve is essentially murdered.
Speaking of with some of these more three-way valves, do you still? I'm assuming they don't use them on brand new, but what I remember working when I worked doing Costco's, we had on some of the older racks, you had the three-way valves on the rack for hot gas defrost. Are they?
Oh
I've
God, today
what's that?
I seen those today at a store I was looking at. Like it was like an old Husband rack from like the
Yes.
80s.
Uh-huh.
What a pain in the ass those things are to change.
So I was gonna say, what are you doing? What are you doing to combat that? You're having to pipe everything, brand new discharge header and everything, or what?
So you have two options. You either have to replace it with a Sprout. Sprout still makes those.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. I see that.
Well, they still make them. So I mean, obviously, it's kind of a pain because you can't really use an EPR with them
What's that?
because it's going to be in line with the suction. So usually, like the way they're piped is so tight, it's usually suction, discharge, and then the line going out to the suction line going out to the case. So if you put an EPR in after it, the hot gas is gonna hit the EPR. You have to have a check valve around the EPR going the other way.
Hmm.
So me personally, I'd like to get rid of them and just run EPRs and solenoids because I'd rather have EPR control. Like a lot of those old stores never had that. The cases just kind of ran.
Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of the ones they usually on the diagrams they usually had EPRs at the cases for most of those.
Yeah. I mean, me personally, I cringe when I have to do those because it's like, if you got to unsweat that, it's such a pain. You need slip couplings, and if you could get back there, and they're usually on those Husband headers where they're like those baby blue racks where like you can't get to nothing. You'd be lucky if it's that old, the header isn't gonna fall over.
No, I got you. Um, but with a lot of these valves, there I believe there is a strainer right where that quarter-inch line pilot line is there, isn't there?
Um, on the inlet to the hot gas pilot line, there is a strainer.
Okay.
So
So hey guys, today's episode is sponsored by Westermeyer Industries serviceable oil floats. Many oil separators contain an oil float to effectively meter separated oil back to the compressors. Westermeyer Industries has taken this concept and perfected it with their new line of serviceable oil floats. These floats feature an improved design with fewer components, allowing for greater manufacturer consistency and up to 20% increased oil flow versus their legacy models. These floats also feature an integrated magnet to shield the oil path from debris and have been field proven in supermarket applications. Westmeyer Industries offer replacement oil floats not only for their own separators, but also cross-compatible models for our competitor oil separators as well. You can find out more about the Westermeyer Industries serviceable oil floats by visiting westermeyerind.com/floats. Once again, that's westermeyerind.com/float. Let's get on with the episode.
if
Have you
if you
have you ever seen that back up and not work?
yes, yes. We had a store, uh, Target store. They grenaded like 4 scrolls, and all the little pieces like burn up, you know, chunks of compressor somehow made it to that pilot line, and it blocked it up, so it caused it not to split the condenser because it wasn't allowing it to push that high pressure gas into that cylinder and push the piston down, so it wouldn't shift and allow it to vent or to shut the other side of the condenser and vent. It ended up being I ended up grabbing it and the hot gas line was ice cold. So it was actually metering through there because it was so blocked up. Ended up pulling it out and it was all stuck in the tube too.
How much luck have you had with rebuilding? Because I know the regular solenoid driven heat reclaim valves can kind of be a pain in the ass to rebuild.
They are a
Um,
nightmare. So
no,
I mean, it's 50-50. It depends how bad it is. If I look at it and it's like I could relatively get to it easy, then I'll probably rebuild it. But half the time you have to end up cutting the line
Mm.
and coupling it because you can't get it apart.
So we rebuild those, and like you said, they are a pain in the ass to rebuild, and it's just usually because of the location, right? But the MTWA or whatever the bipolar three-way valves, we've rebuilt I think 3 or 4 of them now at this point, and they keep sealing. We haven't had a problem. I mean, I don't know when at what point will it not seal with just brand new gaskets, if that makes sense. Like I
So
don't.
I always get 2 sets of gaskets because I'm paranoid about it because I had one where we did it and the fucker leaked.
Oh no.
And it was leaking worse than when we took it apart. So like I'm a big proponent, me personally. I rather just put a brand new valve in with those. Like I'm like I don't get nervous a lot. I get nervous every time I do one of those because it's a lot of work, and usually you're yanking on lines to get the damn thing apart because you don't want to have to cut everything. I mean, especially if you're doing like a 2 and 5 one. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, that's a lot. Like the last one, I had a come along wrapped around it, pulling back on my discharge line enough to get it just to get it out enough where I get the slide the piston out and then change the seal. And I'm not gonna lie, I put some RTV around it too.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I know. I guess because you're working so damn hard on trying to get that thing apart and rebuilt, and all that initiative for it to fucking end up leaking would kind of piss me off too.
I mean, it's super simple too. That's the thing. Like, there's not like much to it inside that when you pull it out, it's literally a piston, basically a cylinder inside there with a seal on it, and then you have an O-ring on the face of it, and that's it.
Yeah, that whole thing where all the Allens are around the body, that's the only thing that fucking drives me nuts with those. Like,
Well, yeah,
having to pull that shit apart in order to rebuild that one.
I have bad luck with Allens. Like, I strip out Allens all the time. Like, I am so petrified of it for like working on vehicles and stuff. Like, I have really bad luck with Allen keys. Like, I absolutely hate Allens and Torx. Like, I end up stripping them out every single time. Like that's the other thing. Like I always get a bolt kit for them because I'm petrified I'm gonna break the bolts.
Really?
So
No.
like with that stuff, same with the like the defrost three-way valves, like you were talking about. Do not try to rebuild those things without bolts. Like I've seen some old ones where guys will go to do them and they'll fucking snap the bolt, hold it down because it's like a 3/8 head bolt on the top of those three-way valves. Well, you got to
Right.
remember hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold for 10, 15 years straight. It's not insulated. And I mean, it's rusty. So good luck getting it apart.
Do you spray any kind of degreaser in any of the assembly, or are you replacing that whole assembly when you rebuild those valves?
50-50. If I can get to it, I'll just cut it out. If I can't get to it and I can rebuild it on the header, I'm just gonna degrease it, clean it up, make sure the seal's not cut. I'm not a big fan of putting new pistons in 20-year valves.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to remember that thing's been moving in there for that long. I mean, I get nervous with that, like, especially sorts. Like if a sort's over like 10 years, 15 years, I won't rebuild it. I'll just change it.
Well, when you say change it, will you at least
The whole body.
oh, even you'll unsweat it?
Yep.
Okay.
Just for the well, I mean, just for the fact, my whole thing is like that piston's been moving in there for that many years. It's probably worn the body a smidge. You just
Mm.
go throw a different piston in there. I just get nervous with that kind of stuff.
See, I've actually looked down on that. By the way, when you're looking at some of the stuff, some of the stuff on the actual valve means something. So when they talk about the B port, that's the bleeder. I'm trying to find the other one that they're naming it because I thought I had it. Because each line has whatever it's designated, has a letter designation to tell you what portion it is. And now I can't find it, of course.
Do 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 do.
Oh no, I can't find it. It's ridiculous.
That's one of those really long manuals. Like a lot of times, guys, is making sure coils are good, like making sure coils are wired properly. They get half the time on three-way valves, I find that aren't working. Probably half the time, it's a bad coil. I mean, they're pretty robust. Either they're leaking or it's a burnout coil, usually.
Unless it's after they if it's after gas retrofit and no one took the time to pull the valve apart, or shortly thereafter. You're
Well, see,
sighing because you know.
I've done it. Well, here's the thing, like, generally, they don't leak. It's 50-50 with them because it's on the gas side.
Hmm.
Most of the time on the retrofits, it's the liquid side that leaks every single time.
Hmm.
Suction's, like, hardly ever leaks. Suction side hardly ever leaks, but, yeah, that's on the retrofits, it is rough. I mean,
Yeah,
if I'm quoting it, it's getting changed out, not rebuilt.
we had one in the middle of the night that, after X amount of years, it just decided just not to work anymore.
Well, the three-way valve with the heat reclaim valves, we've had a couple where they just shifted in the middle and they got stuck, and that's a nightmare. That's where you start running into head pressure issues and like stuff tripping out because it's stuck. The piston is stuck between port A and port B, and you got barely any gas going to either one, and that's a problem. Generally, like when that happens, you could hear it. Like if you walk up to like a stuck three-way valve and it's like stuck in between, you could hear it ripping through both ports because it sounds like like a river flowing through because it's just high pressure gas going around both sides, and neither one of them are getting good flow.
Yeah, we had that happen on a split valve. It gave up the ghost, and just all of a sudden, forget it. It was causing copious amounts of head pressure issues, and I think they ended up just pulling the whole damn thing apart and just because it was summertime anyway, and basically pulled out the guts and put it back together with a Hail Mary for the weekend before they could get a gasket kit for it.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is like you can go on Sporland's website and get the retrofit guide. Like they have like a retrofit guide of all their gaskets they sell.
Hmm.
Like me personally, I think almost every truck should be outfitted with like a gasket kit from Sporland. Like this is three-way valve gaskets. This is OE42 valve gaskets. Like a whole entire gasket kit for that. So like if it does happen in the middle of the night or like you have to rip a valve apart, it's like, yeah, I may not have a rebuild kit for it, but I got a gasket kit for it. So like it actually gets resolved. Other than just having to let it leak or let it you're screwed or cut it out completely and repipe it. I had to do that on a three-way valve at a Target one time. Like it was stuck and it was a Friday. I had to cut out a 2 and 5 three-way valve. We had to repipe it around the discharge.
Yay. Well, a lot of these other three reclaim valves and stuff, the ones that have the big nut on there, be mindful that there is a gasket in between there, making sure that that is replaceable, the Wolverine gasket, so you don't have any further issues when putting that thing back together, because otherwise that sucker will leak.
Yeah, I mean, make sure everything's torqued down. I mean, it's inch pounds. Like, don't go crazy with it. You
So
know,
I got a question for you. So I was over. I went actually this week. I went to Daikin to scope out their training center, and they actually make it a requirement for all their stuff that they have an actual wrench torque or like an open end torque wrench. Do you have that on your truck? Because I actually never owned one.
no, but I have crow's foot wrenches.
And you just throw them on there for the
Yeah,
inch pounds. Okay,
it's
that's what.
cool. I mean, I'm not going around torquing every flare, but like,
No, but like when you're rebuilding like an A8 valve or an A9 valve, where like it's really kind of crucial, like how you tighten that thing down.
Oh, I have an inch-pound torque wrench.
Yeah.
So like I ended up buying like a Tekken inch-pound torque wrench off of Amazon for like $30. Like it doesn't have to be like something like crazy accurate. You're not rebuilding motors or transmissions with it. It's
Hmm.
not like you're rebuilding a centrifugal chiller and you need to snap on torque wrench where something's gonna fly apart. It's gonna cost 100 G's. You rebuild the three-way valve that's a couple $100, but like you don't want it to leak and you want to do it the right way. So just grab like a Tekken gear wrench makes them. Like anybody that make Harbor Freight has decent like torque wrenches for what we do. You don't need something crazy, just something what you're doing, not just the Milwaukee Ugga Dugga machine.
I thought if it was inch pounds, you were just gonna use the Ugga Dugga Junior.
No, because even the Ugga Dugga Junior is like 50 foot-pounds.
Damn.
Like those like Gen 4 Milwaukee impacts will snap the bolts. The quarter-inch impacts will snap the bolts on the dryer shells.
I'm assuming that you're saying that through experience.
Yeah, I did it like 3 times the other day. That's why I always have bolts with me, like because it was like the original bolts. Obviously, they're like 20 years old, and people have been torquing on them, and they stretch. And yeah, the Ugga Dugga machine will make quick work of those. But all right, guys, thanks for listening to the Three Way Valve Tech Tips. Have a nice night.
Later, guys.